Hey, what is up YouTube? Demonspark here today, again, as always on this channel, and today's video is going to be my Nitro to brushless electric conversion Truggy, and this is what I was told when I first was interested in getting it in a trade. It was a GT2 Kyosho, which looks quite identical to, so it had me fooled for the longest time. I just recently got back into the hobby, so to excuse my stupidity for miscalling this wrong vehicle, but it does look very identical to a Kyosho GT2. I had to do some modifications. This shock is broken. I don't even know what size shocks these use to replace, but I have this little screw along with a lot of epoxy to hold the shock shaft in place, because part of the bottom of the shock shaft where it screws into the bottom end snapped off. That's how it was by default. I have improper sized dog bones that I shoved some fuel tubing in the cups to keep the play minimal so they don't slide back out. They don't even bind anymore, surprisingly, and this came loose. The grub screw on the rear differential, while I was doing a test earlier, as you can see, it came loose. And I have a Volcano EPX dog bone in there. Here's a proper dog bone in the front, and you can tell it's a 10th scale dog bone. Obviously not right. It has been driving it. I am not expecting it to last forever, since it has an immense amount of play back and forth, left and right. So I'm pretty much expecting that to deteriorate over extended periods of usage. And yes, this thing is very filthy right now, just all the wet snow. But I wanted to have a test run, and everything is done up just as temporary, just for testing purposes, since I managed to rebuild this. I put the new, or rather my old Redcat 1920 kV motor on here from the awesome Redcat Landslide XTE, which has also been upgraded. The stock Redcat radio system, RCR2CE with the same matching radio box, a really crappy servo that basically doesn't exist. It's called a Vector Standard VSS31. Basically does not exist. I've looked all over online. So my issues is I can't find the right size dog bones. I bought the Kyosho GT2, Inferno. I bought every Kyosho GT series dog bone for this, including the rear drive shaft bones, and the diff bones, or rear diff drive shaft bones, as well as the rears. The front has CVDs that came with it, which is nice because they're good quality. Chromed CVD bones in the front. These are the wheels I would be using on this. These are Truggy wheels I got off of Amazon. A whole set of these rims and wheels. They have a foam insert. They're pretty decent rubber quality. They're not too soft, but not too hard. I have these in the rear temporarily, since my other wheels kind of had a catastrophic failure while testing it. Not surprisingly, since I used epoxy on them instead of CA glue. So that kind of came off while doing a test run. Luckily the rim is not too chewed up, so I was going very slow. Never really got to test this vehicle very much. It's an 8th scale. I don't know the brand. Like I said, it's an off-branded one. I found that on eBay. It does not have a brand either. So the bottom side of the chassis is a nice thick aluminum chassis. As you can see, it was a Nitro at one point. It's for the motor, and the original mounts for the fuel tank and motor, which someone had previously modified to fit the brushless kind of conversion kit on it, which works out pretty well. But I have no idea where I can manage to find the proper size parts for this. I've improvised for a lot of it myself. A massive spur and a massive pinion on here. I was thinking about downsizing on the pinion, definitely. But not entirely certain if I'm going to do that in the long run. I haven't really had much full future testing on this, since one problem after another, and not knowing any brand or anything like that makes it a lot more difficult for me to work with. These do have sway bars in the rear and in the front, very similarly to the GT2, the Inferno, I believe. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. The bulkhead is also very identical, except for the way the shock tower mounts onto the bulkhead. The Kyosho shock tower mounts would not fit on this bulkhead, but I do believe if I wanted to, I can probably actually put real Kyosho bulkheads on here, and probably the whole A-arm system, since it looks nearly identical to exactly how a GT2 is, which is what had me fooled for a while. And like I said, I was just getting back into the hobby. This is my first vehicle. I've had this for probably about 8 months or so now, and I haven't been able to do much with it. So if any of you guys out there might be able to throw some input onto this one, I would love to get this in a lot better shape than it is now, and this servo replaced. I got an Inferno box on here, and yeah, that mounted up pretty nice. I got a temporary 2S battery tray, which, like I said, is basically temporary, since I can't fit a 3S or anything larger, and I'm running the SC8 RTR, the original Redcat, 80 or 120 amp. I don't know what they're actually rated at. ESC, which I had to modify. It actually came out pretty nicely, if I do say so myself. Apologize, it's kind of hard to work with one hand, but these ESCs originally came with the female barrel, so I had to put these plugs on here to accommodate that. So I soldered those on and shrink tubed them off. So that worked out pretty nicely. Very happy with the 1920. It's also a pretty good motor, surprisingly. I wasn't too certain about that, but when I originally got the Landslide XTE, it came with that motor. I tested very briefly a few runs with it, but that no longer has that motor in there. Of course, if you've followed my channel and latest updated videos, you would know that I have a pretty heavily modified and customized Landslide XTE with the Castle Creations 2200 kV motor, and unlike a lot of other people, I managed to do the impossible and fit the Mamba Monster 2 ESC back into the original ESC tray, since this one's a lot larger than the stock SC8 RTR ESC. There's a very tiny amount of play in there, but absolutely will never come out. And I have the TQI radio, and I have some tape on there since it's not waterproof. I do run it in snow. I try to keep it away from water the best as possible. I have shorted it out once before, unfortunately, but luckily, and some alcohol and a quick hair dryer to it, after ripping it open, back to perfect running condition. All steel gears. Got the nice steel rock. It's a very strong motor. Very dirty, as you can see. Haven't had much usage out of this one yet, since the snow keeps coming and melting, so not much fun there. Overall, this has been a great vehicle. I blew out one of the shock caps, unfortunately, by a really bad hit. Landed all the weight onto the right rear wheel into a log, and absolutely obliterated the shock cap in the bottom. That's off of a different shock. It's not the right one. There's the original. I don't even know if I can get these original bottom shock caps, since this one doesn't really fit the shock very well. It has a lot of play in it, as you can see. It doesn't fit this bottom part of where the shock shaft meets. I don't know what this is called, actually. Offhand, it's kind of embarrassing. I do apologize, but I am still learning as well as improvising. And the further damage, since there's no wheelie bar, and the hit was pretty bad when after it flipped, it kind of hit my rear bumper and snapped that, which is a shame because it kind of worked as a really great carrying handle, but in pretty cold, freezing temperatures, not surprisingly, plastic tends to snap pretty easily. had upgraded the shock oil on these two also to the Team Low C 50 weight on all the front and rear shocks, which is pretty identical to stock, but a lot better, I would say, as far as my driving experience with this vehicle has been. Next upgrade is probably going to be the servo for steering. This battery tray is an aftermarket tray I originally got off the other vehicle, and I have these nice aluminum peg risers to keep it actually off the chassis. It's kind of hard to see underneath the chassis guard, but I have two aluminum risers, and I can basically lift the whole vehicle off of that if I really want to. It holds a lot of weight. I got the two Redcat straps, the Velcro straps in there for the battery. Fits 2S, 3S. I don't know if it would fit a single 4S, but I do plan on putting one more of these on the other side, exactly identical, so I can run two 2S's, two 3S's, whatever I want, 6S maximum. I've never tried this vehicle on a 4S, or rather anything higher than a 3S, and I only have a single 3S 20C battery, so it's not optimal, but it does work pretty well. And the last vehicle has the 3300 kV brushless eBay motor. This is also running the SC8 R2R with the stock servo and stock radio system. This is one of my shared vehicles. This is my first Redcat that I got before getting the Landslide. There's a couple minor upgrades. I have the aluminum servo horn on there. It fits this servo a lot better. I tried it on the Landslide and it started stripping out the teeth on it. Most likely due to improper teeth size on the servo. I'm not sure exactly why or what happened with that. Maybe just because it's a way larger vehicle. You can see the comparison of wheel size. So you can imagine there'd be a lot more torque to steer these size wheels on an 8th scale versus this little 10th scale. Now I don't get too deterred. This little 10th scale can move, and boy is it fun. Unfortunately, when my mate was driving it, they're new to the hobby as well, and they managed to kind of slam it into a dumpster. You can see a little bit. The chassis is pretty badly cracked where the front bulkhead is, so that's the next major upgrade. Is going to have an aluminum chassis on here. That managed to break, as well as the front bumper got pretty mangled up, and it's cracked now. Nothing irreparable. Thinking about doing the aluminum casters and steering knuckles most likely as well. I have the upgraded dog bones in here too. Nice chrome heavy duty dog bones to replace the stock crappy ones that bent really quick. So I got all 4 brand new heavy duty chromed dog bones. The shocks are eventually going to be replaced because these are pretty crappy. I have upgraded shock oil in the rear, and it's topped off with the shock oil, the stock stuff, from the rear into the front, which I think is a little bit stiffer to my liking, but it's been making do pretty well so far. And in order to fit this one, I have it on a nice foam riser block. It's epoxied down, and this is super glued and epoxied down onto there as well, nice and snug, so it's plenty tough enough it hasn't broke off, and I doubt it ever will. The only thing I managed to really break overall is definitely the body shell. Running these in very, very cold temperatures will put a major toll on them. It is very mangled up, as you can see by all the Gorilla Tape on it, and on the inside to help reinforce it and hold it together. The front body panel area is missing basically the whole wheel well area, so it's just now made up with some Gorilla Tape. Always gotta have one bashing body and one show body. This one's definitely has its fair share of showing for bashing. I did the same thing on my Landslide XTE. It's all mangled up in the front. All the tape does serve its purpose for being there, rest assured, because this has been mangled up pretty badly, especially in the rear, since there's no wheelie bar. You see the crack, it's visible right there underneath the Redcat logo, some tape on the side. Ripped my Mamba Monsters little stickers in half. It's been held up pretty well. This has been bent in, I popped back out. On the backside, my rear wheel managed to rip the body basically in half. You can see the epoxy along the wheel well up to the backside, which has now been all taped off with the Gorilla Tape to help hold it together and reinforce it, of course, which has been a great idea. I've seen someone do that on YouTube, one of the RCers. Definitely a recommended thing to do. And yes, all my body shells and my RCs are pretty filthy at the time being, so I do apologize for that, but what fun it would be if you don't bash it and don't get it dirty. I've had a little bit of minor problems with rusting, so I'm going to have to start spraying down W40 absolutely pretty soon, as you can see on the adjusters and even somewhat in the drive cups, the dog bones. I don't know how you can see it in the video, but they're starting to rust out a little bit. Haven't had any problems with the drive axles for the rear yet. I think I've seen some people saying because they're so long about them bending or snapping, binding. I've never had that problem yet. I also haven't had that much runtime put onto these vehicles yet, just due to really inclement weather. That's not very optimal. I do love running in the snow, however. That's probably one of my choice things. You can see the inside of the drive cup over here starting to rust out a bit. Not very pretty. Some W40 in there, keep the water out. The backside of my spur gear, you can see a little bit of rust on there now. Much better than stocking it. This was very tedious to get set for the mesh of the spur and pinion due to the size of this motor too. But it's properly meshed now. It's been overall a great vehicle, but more importantly, onto this one. This is my primary concern right now, is because this is a lot harder to find parts for. So this is also a partial video for a fellow YouTuber who does RC stuff, specifically with Redcat vehicles quite a lot, that I enjoy watching, and I was hoping maybe this video might also help me identify into what kind of parts I should get for this that would actually fit it, or if you even have any idea of what this generic branded vehicle was before it had been modified. The easiest thing of me identifying it was by the chassis. I found one of these on eBay. It was being sold as a Nitro unbranded vehicle, as is, not surprisingly. Since this one I've invested a lot more time and work and effort into trying to get it optimally performing. The differentials need to be rebuilt as well and repacked with proper diff grease, since I only think one of them has a little bit of grease, and then one I cleaned out and just put a little bit of bicycle grease into it, which is obviously not optimal, but I wanted to put something in there rather than nothing. This is a really big project one. I managed to get a little bit of running out of it today, or rather tonight. As you can see, it's all covered in wet mud, which I don't like. I don't have a body shell for it. It didn't come with one. I'm not sure if this was stock on here or if someone installed it. I do have the foam insert for that. It used to be like that. And the towers that would, I guess, mount to a body. I'm not entirely certain if this was even meant for this vehicle or someone put it on aftermarket. Notably, the front shocks are a lot shorter than the rears. And I don't even know what size shocks these are, because this one needs replaced. Like I said, the bottom end of the shock shaft is snapped, and right now it's being held in with the makeshift grub screw, per se, and a lot of epoxy to hold the shock shaft onto the bottom cap. But they do work pretty well. The bottom's out without binding the dog bones. Since, like I said, these are the incorrect size dog bones, it's very hard to see. It's all covered in mud. I do apologize for that. And the rear drive shaft bone, I have no idea what size that would use. It's something similar to these. I do believe one of these might have been the original, but I don't have any tools to measure how many millimeters it is from end to end or pin to pin, either or, for this vehicle. But hopefully, stay tuned for some more updates on this one. Right now, like I said, I just have the old original stock on-road styled wheels. I think these are actually meant for carpet racing. That's what I read online for these. I don't remember what they were called. The Bandits or Bandito tires, I'm not too certain. And I have these ones. They're not very well trued either, so eventually these are going to be rebuilt, or rather, they're going to be reseated back to the rim, re-glued, because I tried this with the epoxy. The epoxy just ripped right off. Home-built makeshift workstation area. Basically every minor tool and everything that you could possibly need for the most part. So I'm trying to rebuild everything that I need. Got a few common-sized drill bits. I have a couple of different Allen bit sizes, shrink tubing, soldering equipment, a little tray with some power wires, stuff like that. Custom built drawers out of a toolbox. I mounted up, which is done very nicely. You can hold quite a lot of weight. A reinforced bracket and braces that I had built. So, sorry for such a lengthy video, but I wanted to show you guys off the different projects and my different vehicles, especially the one in front of me. I guess is considered a Truggy. That's what I've been calling it. It's both Truggy and truck, or buggy and truck, I'm sorry. That's what I could technically consider it as anyway. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and make sure to like and subscribe for more and future updates. And if anyone can throw some input onto this, I would greatly appreciate it. Again, thanks for watching.